It's time for Respect the Process, a short chat about commercial filmmaking. Here's your host, director Jordan Brady.
Oh, Helen, season 3 is on a roll, and Adam Witten is my guest, and he's going to take it to the next level. When you thought we couldn't go higher with season 3, Adam Witten is here to teach us some things. He's a director, an editor. He has a collective called Smokin Oakham, doing some great work with his buddies. You'll hear about it, and I'll put a link at jordanbrady.com. Adam and I also talk about not just how AI is reshaping filmmaking, but we talk about the balance between creativity and technology, and we even get into the legal and the ethical challenges of the new medium. I know you're rolling your eyes, Jordan, you love the AI we see on Instagram, but Adam is an authority on it, so you're going to love this chat. Let's get to the interview right after this word from our new sponsor, Posh Duo. This episode is brought to you by a new sponsor, Posh Duo, the original 2-in-1 hair and beard styling stick. I use it. It's made for filmmakers, handcrafted with beeswax, tea tree oil, a fresh hint of citrus, and a single Viking tear. Listeners of this show respect the process, get free shipping, and it comes in discreet packaging. There's a link in the show notes. Get the posh look. Quick reminder, my filmmaker retreat in Joshua Tree is October 1st through the 4th, 2026. Year 5, everybody. It's a small group of real working filmmakers. I want you to come be a part of a special community, take part in honest conversations, and just take time to think out in the desert. And the food is fantastic. That's where all the magic happens, really, is we all eat our meals together. If you've been craving connection, transformational clarity about your career or life, and you really want to define your voice as a filmmaker, this might be right for you. So DM me or sign up quickly. It will sell out. Oh yeah, there's plenty of Magic Mind at the retreat. That's the mental performance shot that I drink daily. Okay, let's get on with the show.
What's your editorial process like on these?
What do you mean?
I mean, so I'm sure I have never experienced any media that doesn't get gently turned into its best form. And I'm just curious what it is.
No, great question. So Jake Brady is the editor of the podcast, and he's been doing it for, golly, Jake, if you're listening, over 10 years maybe, on and off. And he has exquisite taste, deft timing, and it's also the safe word. So if Adam is saying like, oh, what an asshole this client was, and I go, Adam, we don't want to say that on the podcast, then Adam goes, Jake, yeah, wind that back. And he'll seamlessly take it out. We've never had a complaint.
Legitimately, it's less, I'm just more interested in kind of how you make stuff than where the safety edges are. I'm not so self-destructive as to like need that to be my first question.
It was a great first question. We have a good workflow because now it's this Riverside, and there's an AI component to Riverside where it could take out all the pauses, but it's not there yet. It's a little glitchy. What's wrong with a breath? What's wrong with a moment of reflection in a conversation?
But like actually the opposite.
What do you mean?
Like in the breath is where the moment is.
I think it was Miles Davis who famously said the music is between the notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave that in, Jake. That's a great starting point.
It doesn't know when to leave the breaths in. That's the real trouble.
Yeah. It is good at, and not great, but it is good at picking and presenting a dozen social media clips of Adam and Jordan. But Jake, because he used to do it by hand, just go through the conversation and pluck them out for little pod snacks. The AI offers up bites but the heads and tails of the bites really don't have a lot of context.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's kind of like, that's correct for the media it's selecting for, right? Like it's non-contextual media. It's supposed to pique the interest and then then you come in for the context.
Oh, I got to hear the whole show now.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
So maybe that's a feature, not a bug.
I'm not sold, but I love your enthusiasm and passion.
I feel like I'm not over the top about it, but on par, I'm a techno optimist.
Me too.
So even when it doesn't work, I go, okay, but how can the not working be cool? How can we break this in fun and good ways?
Oh, I was an early adopter to just anything from Chat GPT to, I failed at Midjourney, but I remember Thanksgiving break of 23.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, no, this genie is out of the cat litter, or whatever that phrase is. It's not going back in the cat box. And just have watched it, and I love it I've made a promo for commercial directing film school.
Mm-hmm.
Several with AI, and my son Ben, who's a cinematographer and a hands-on, he'll pull focus, he'll do everything, a great director. He defended me. He's like, well, as a one-man band filmmaker making promos for a film school, yes, it's ironic that he's not getting a crew and a cast. It's somewhat hypocritical, someone put. But the point is, there are things we wouldn't do without these tools. We just wouldn't do it.
I think it's such a good moment that someone called you hypocritical, because I think a lot of these conversations like really quickly slip into false dichotomy.
Explain.
So like two choices are be a pure filmmaker and even though you're kind of like running a small business and trying to build community, kind of like even more importantly than the business side of that is like the community side of that. How do you talk to a community in an effective way? And so you're either you're kind of pure cinema, or you're using AI in the face of pure cinema, instead of saying, look, you are using nonlinear editing, right? Like there is a certain amount of ease you would like to have in your filmmaking. And I think a lot of the conversations when people have really big feelings about this, it's much more comfortable to be like this or that. Be on one of the sides of the fence, instead of there's a lot of ways to use this technology, all the technologies from nonlinear editing to VFX to generative. It's all exists on a spectrum of human intent and interaction.
I would throw spell check in there.
Hell yeah. For sure.
Is spell check and Google, it's crazy. Yeah. Photoshop is the one that everyone went to first, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing I've been saying on this podcast a few times now, Adam, and Jake will say, Dad, you've said that a few times and take it out, but I'm going to say leave it in. And it's not my original idea, although I had this as an original idea, and then I read it and I go, oh, that's what I was saying. And we're seeing it, and this will segue into your work, because I think you've come up with a riff on the art form, because when photographers came around with their cameras, the painters striving for realism were like, well, we give up. I don't know if they all gave up, but for this telling of the story, they gave up. And they went and did pointillism or cubism or expressionism, and your Salvador Dali's and whatnot said, well, I'm just going to be crazy. So Adam has a woman being pulled by a bounce house blowing in the wind. That's a great idea that I don't know. Like, could you have first of all, is that all AI or is that a hybrid?
No, that's 100% generative.
100% AI. The woman looks so real, and I had to watch like 3 times. And I think I saw that online before I even met you. And it's so well done. And then I go, well, maybe it's just the wide shot. Or maybe the woman's on a green screen and the AI background of her being pulled in the grass. And listeners, I will post this spot with the blog. And then the wide shot of the moon bounce being blown in the wind, dragging this woman by a rope tied to her leg or her foot. I thought, okay, well, that's AI, because I've been professing the AI sandwich, the wide shots, the cutaway, things that you couldn't do, the castle, the jungle, and then the close-up shoot people.
Yeah.
My back to the point is, now with these new tools, there's new ways to express.
Mm-hmm. And there's new ways. I think as we're at such a like dynamic intersection of commerce and art, right? At a 15 previously, you couldn't, the economics of a 15 with a bouncy house getting pulled along practically, or VFX, is just impossible. So that idea was dead on arrival many months ago in a meeting.
Or you'd have to do 3 of those in a day to amortize the cost of the 315s.
That's right. And then the other 2 have to be just like two guys talking.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes.
Park bench.
Yeah, 100%.
And as people on the production side and directors, we're going, do we have to do 3?
Yeah.
Like, we could just do the one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So one of the many kind of exciting ways of using this is being able to write to concepts that are right for the right length, instead of trying to build things that make sense financially for a brand or for an advertising agency or something like that. Like, it's a 15-second idea. It just should not be a 30. And then once it is a 15, it has the added benefit of, like, you can show it a lot more places. There's just a lot more opportunities. So, I think having those crazy ideas, I don't even want to say crazy, just kind of impractical ideas are now on the table in this whole other way.
Well, they were not feasible prior to this era.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Now, since I brought up the moon bounce, what can you tell us some of how the sausage is made on that?
Sure. I wish there was something kind of more complicated on that one, but really there's
2 shots, I think.
Yeah, it's 2 shots. There's some simplicity to it. And I would say, if I had to say what the magic is in the openness in the second shot. It is the time before we get to the brand on the second shot. But to make most of the work is in the performance of the first person, and as a comedy person, I know you've spent days on this. Yeah, it's timing for sure. Yeah, right. Like revolving doors, it's all about the timing. There's a fair amount of both working on the script in conjunction with how the takes are coming out of the generative, and then also playing with a bunch of different ways. So that clip is Veo with the Google model, but we actually looked at 3 or 4 different models to make that work. I'm a big proponent of performance driving. So there are models like Runway's model, and there's the new One Animate model that allow a real person to be driving the performance. And I tend to go there first to see if that is a great solution, just because it even as good as generative gets, sometimes even if generative can get there, the faster, more fun solution is to just drive the performance.
with a human,
with a
a
human.
performer, an actor, maybe you in the office laying on the carpet.
Me or the creator or
Yeah.
the creatives at the agency. Like there's a lot of people involved in the process who have good ideas about what this should look like. And I'm into having them all be part of it. It's not location dependent like a regular shoot is, so we can all be where we are in the world. And
do you have a big Zoom like meeting where you're working?
So that's a great question. So we will have some things that kind of look like an edit session after the first cut. Before the first cut, it is way more asynchronous, and maybe we'll have a few meetings in a kind of to make sure all like an affect vibe check. I want to be able to hear everyone's voice and see their face and see how they're really reacting to ideas that isn't just email or text message or whatever. So I'm a big proponent of asynchronous communication, but only after we know each other a bit. So I can fill in some of the gaps.
It's so funny. I work with a guy and I googled him, and one of his things on like Wikipedia said, big fan of asynchronous. He's a startup VC guy, different world than you and I. And his Wikipedia said he's a big proponent of asynchronous communication. And I was like, wow, of all the things that I got to get hip to, because I'm like a Pavlovian dog responding to a ding on my phone. I'm like, oh, I got to answer these texts. And now I take the pause between the notes, and it's all good. I'm a little more thoughtful in my responses. So I could see how that would affect the work as well.
I wish I was kind of mature enough in myself to say I don't have big emotional responses to intense creative critiques, but I do. Right? Like if there's a left
what
turn,
do you know, motherfucker?
Right, exactly. I want, and the one of the things, especially at the beginning of the project when we're really asynchronous, is my ability to go, okay. I hear what he's saying behind the thing, and not have to do that in their face, and be able to be kind of the better version of myself that takes a minute to have all the feelings and then get back to the work.
A little more stoic.
I mean, maybe a little bit more stoic, but also just like it's okay to be passionate about the thing that you're making and have big feelings when people want to change stuff. But that's not the end of the conversation. That's the beginning of the conversation. And
well put.
And so let's not have my big feelings derail the work we're doing. And asynchronous communication can be really great for that. And in fact, later in the process, when we are in the kind of more editorial type space, we all know each other a bit better, and reactions don't go quite as big because we're the same team by the end.
That's great. And that spot, I don't know the name of it. I apologize. I could pull it up.
Calm spot.
I know it's Calm is the client.
Yeah.
And Calm is the app.
Yeah, it's an app.
And the Calm people, side note, I am in love with this one Calm spokesperson that shows up in my Instagram feed. I don't know if you know her, but she's got like little freckles and her voice is so soft. I think it's a human, by the way.
Oh, yeah, probably.
And she goes, hey, you're going in alone. You don't have to do it alone. You're here. Take a break. And I took a screen grab of her and sampled her for a promo for the film school. Like I was so smitten. She's and not in a like a weird sexual way. It's just like she's perfect for Calm. She's inviting. I think she's ethnically ambiguous.
I'm curious why you feel like you failed at Midjourney.
Well, there's two things. In that fall of 23, Midjourney required prompts that were intricate. I downloaded an app to learn about art history. and bone up on references to painters and styles. I think I had the filmic and cinematic language down, but I was just not that good. There's a woman on LinkedIn, Sherry Horowitz, who's a image conjurer, and who mastered it early on and came up with these dreamy, wonderful things, images. And I talked to her, kind of took a lesson, and it just wasn't as good. And then the second component, Adam, was I felt like in the end, Adobe's going to be like Target brought style to the masses, right? Isaac Mizrahi, the designer, decades ago, went into Target and just brought it all. And I thought, Adobe's going to be the target of AI. It's going to give us an option for all these things. And it's not quite as good. And now Higgsfield has been my sort of Bedouin bazaar of Sora, Veo, Wayne, Wan, 2.5 Turbo, all these things. So I gave up on Midjourney as much as I failed. Like I just cut bait and said, okay, just like I'm not good enough with a camera to DP. I'm going to hire the image conjurer.
Interesting.
For that style of project. For
that stuff. I would encourage you to go back to Midjourney. To be clear, I'm not a proponent of any model. Our ethos is one of there can never be a single path to success. We need redundant paths to success. So we don't say this is our tool set and this is all we use and the only way we do it. But
tool agnostic.
%. It really like process based, so that we can put in the right tool for the right challenge. That's really the same thing you're saying. What I love Midjourney for, even still, it never is the end point of anything that goes into any of my video models for a couple reasons, but it is so excellent at kind of a wide aesthetic exploratory experience. So a lot of the different image models, they can really push you to regress to a mean, especially Google's models. They're so good. Their fidelity is so incredible, but they really want to regress to a mean of what they've been trained on. Whereas there's a lot more room, in my anecdotal experience, in Midjourney to go really off-piste about the look and feel of your images. So as a place
it suggests like more random outputs?
So I wouldn't say I couldn't tell you technically what's happening under the hood of the model. I just know you don't have to push as hard to get far from the center.
You don't have to push as hard to get far from the center, whereas the Google models and some others pull you to the center, and that's why we see that same guy, that same influencer, the wave model with the perfume doing the UGC.
Yeah, there's a tension because some models are really good at what's the prompt adherence is the term, which means they give you exactly the thing you're asking for.
Most people would think prompt adherence is a good thing.
Well, it is a good thing up to a point, like all good things.
Or maybe it's good after you've settled on an image.
It is way more useful in that part of the process. My process involves doing a lot of visual exploration, usually in Midjourney, now in a couple other models as well, but usually in Midjourney, where I'm like trying to set the look and feel for what is right. There is also, and this is a like unfun part of the conversation, but there is also a big kind of legal question mark for a lot of clients on generative stuff. And I think at this point, I wouldn't use Midjourney as a starting point.
Oh, interesting.
So I do my exploration there because it feels like the right tool to do the exploration. And then once I find a look and I can explain that look in a useful way, I then have a kind of bit of a firewall between Midjourney and the rest of my process, where I found what I want it to look like, and then I recreate that look in other models that maybe have better prompt adherence, maybe have better, the clients are going to have better risk tolerance around their context.
That's a real world concern that you're dancing around. We're not even dancing around it. You're dancing on top of it.
That is a conversation on every job. Is every client has their own risk profile, and this being, let's get rid of just the ethical part, right? There's a really great ethical conversation to be had for sure, but let's just talk about its newness. Every client has its own risk profile based on the creative that is in it. If you're going to have a person, there is more risk. If you're going to have a known person, crazy more risk. And we have, at our company, we have very full-chested conversations. We say with our whole voice, here is where some risk concerns are. You need to decide for yourself how that fits for you.
So the woman being pulled in the calm spot, not my muse, your creation.
Yeah.
She's not from Midjourney, but maybe there was some exploration of character. She's based on a human performance and is 100% clear and free for you to put in that spot.
Oh, that's an interesting question. 100% free and clear according to who?
You and I.
Yeah. So one of the conversations we end up having, right, is there is no talent release in that. So I don't know how much you get bogged down in the quagmire of that stuff, or if you have a production team that keeps you insulated from it. But the production release is mostly just ending conversations before they start. Someone shows up and goes, "Hey, that's me in the spot, and I don't like how I'm depicted." And you go, "I don't care. Look, here's the piece of paper. I don't have to."
I've made many a documentary. I have boiled down that was once something that was once written by a lawyer. I have boiled it down to a paragraph that says, I can do anything throughout the end of time with your image. I can put your face on the butt of a donkey, and people read it and they love the simplicity. And then it comes down to trust. Like in an interview with a documentary, I know it's a different beast, but it's the same. It's the same thing. Or a talent release, that sometimes if we're handling talent as a production, real people, we're on the, which I don't like to do, we're on the hook if a client I haven't talked to in a year and a half decides to rerun a spot. I'll get a phone call like, "Hey, I saw that I'm on the internet in Singapore. Do I get $600? Like, huh? So I'm at the window pane of everything, protecting myself, my company, and my family.
Yeah, sure, 100%.
So,
there's no release.
Yeah.
So, can someone come out of the woodwork and say, "Hey, that's me"? Yeah, someone can come out of the woodwork. Now, there's a lot of ways to make that conversation stop pretty soon after that, but there isn't the piece of paper that stops the conversation immediately anymore.
I think it would be so hard. It's such a gray area right now. I'll give you a real world example. The woman in a spot recently, she's writing in her diary, and she says something about her selling her condo in Cabo. And she turns and looks at the pictures back on her desk, and we rack the camera, and there's her condo on the beach with Cabo, and another little picture with a sign that says Cabo with like a wooden sign on the beach. So the agency said, "How are we going to do those signs?" So I found an image. I flipped it, I twisted, I smacked it down, I did all, reversed it, you name it.
You made it yours.
I did like I go back to Moby's samples are so chopped up that you would never find. It's not like a hip hop sample where you go, "Oh, that's Otis Redding."
Yeah, right.
Like uh, old Moby, you would go, "I have no idea," and he would tell in an interview that it was a snippet of Bach or something. So that's how I did these photos. Now you're talking your next level video. The spot where they're jumping out, I think it's a short film, they're jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah. Yeah, music video.
Music video.
Yeah.
What I love about that is there's a consistent aesthetic throughout the whole piece. But almost like your own LUT over the
that actually is an art history thing. There's a artist from the Renaissance, Artisma Gentileschi. She was one of the very few female Renaissance painters. She has an amazing.
I think she was in my app.
Oh, yeah, she was in your app, exactly. She's one of the very few, and she's been on my mind for a long time. And so I kind of was like, I want to make this a Gentileschi kind of painting.
Gentileschi.
Yeah, I think
what century was she in?
She's the Renaissance, so I think she's 1400s, 1500s, something like that.
Before the invention of the parachute or skydiving.
Yeah. Well, it's more or
voluntary skydiving.
Just look and feel. Yeah, that's right. You could go out a window pretty easily. You just weren't
all the time.
You weren't. Yeah, that's right. So there is a consistent look and feel because there's kind of a consistent inspiration for that, for sure.
So take us through that process. You're obsessed with this artist,
right?
You're studying her. You start in Midjourney.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I started.
You're
I definitely started in Midjourney because, in fact, for that I know for sure I used Midjourney's mood board feature. There's a mood board feature where you can feed it a ton of images and have it have an effect on what you're making. I don't tend to use it very much because it's complicated. The idea of using someone else's images. But if you're talking about a Renaissance painter, it's a lot less complicated.
You bring up so before I derail this one, you start there in Midjourney, you use the mood board, and you come up with your own pastiche of a look, and you hone it. You hone it.
I wanted to be kind of photoreal, but inspired by this. And in fact, I kind of ended up having to really push back against the Renaissance thing because I kept getting like billowy shirts and stuff. Like I wanted them to look of this world, but inspired by a Renaissance painting.
I wouldn't have guessed the Renaissance, but is it in that color palette and the 100%. Sort of the hues of the whole thing? It's beautiful.
The tanniness of it. Yeah, that's where I think it shows up the most. I kind of also feel like it's in some faces.
Hi, it's me, Jake, the editor. You probably know Commercial Directing Film School offers in-person boot camps and online courses. But did you know my dad does one-on-one consultations? Yeah, he does. So, now you know, okay? Anyway, now back to this enthralling interview.
I feel like I'm always kind of pushing against the model when it comes to human faces. So I generally, all models want to regress to the mean. Whatever they've been trained on the most, the thing that has been tagged face, the average of, is what it wants to make.
So what words are you using to say, don't give me that mean face?
Yeah, so
average face.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, so I have a bunch of tricks that are kind of mostly linguistic tricks, like using, if you have a specific person you want and you know what their background is in your head, in the story you tell yourself about this person. Nationalities help tremendously because things are going to be tagged on a much smaller set for a nationality than for the term man or woman or face or something. And so you get a much smaller set of features. So you're having to, again, push less hard against the model.
That's a good trick.
Yeah.
So if you put Albanian grandmother,
yes, 100%.
You get something more specific than Eastern European grandmother.
And in fact, I make sure there is as much specificity when I'm doing the original image explorations. Specificity is the order of the day. So it will be a 67-year-old Albanian grandmother of 4 and who has I will add a lot of detail, and then I will end up taking it back out as it's not having an effect. So I add a lot of specificity at first to kind of make sure that the person is as real as they can be for me. And so
likes deviled eggs, anything like that, or that?
So maybe not likes deviled eggs, but I've actually found that there's the strange linguistic choices can have deep effects on what you get. And during the exploratory process, that is wonderful.
Right. It's probably humorous.
It can be humorous, and then also it can be useful for adding some of the serendipity that is needed. There's this thing I end up talking about a lot with generative as opposed to practical filmmaking. In practical filmmaking, you're fighting against entropy for the entire production. No one wants to show up on time. Humans are their own messy selves. Lights want to fall over without warning. The wind wants to pick up and take props where it goes. You're constantly fighting to get everything in line enough that your vision can come into truth, right?
Sure. Well, you're embracing the happy accident here and there, but you have a plan. Time is finite, and you're fighting the clock, and you wish you had more money.
Absolutely, and you're kind of fighting against entropy. And yes, happy accidents are great, but they're actually a product of that tension between the thing you want and the world being the way it is.
Yeah, I agreed.
With generative, it's not to be like overly pompous, but it's chiral. So
what does that mean? Chiral.
It's like a mirror image of itself. In that, in the generative space, everything wants to become the same bland thing. If given enough room, it just wants to become the mean. So you are, instead of working against chaos trying to ruin your idea, you are needing to put in specificity to pull
imbuing chaos.
Well, I don't ever use the word chaos, but maybe it is imbuing chaos. It's imbuing human intention. The same way you're imbuing human intention, that's kind of why I call it a mirror image, is the same way you imbue human intention to kind of calm the chaos of a production, you're imbuing human intention to mitigate the sameness.
Wow. So that just gave me sort of a paradigm shift on how to approach all this.
Thank you. You're welcome. It was a shift for me when I started working enough, and I was like, this is all, if you don't put in enough of yourself, it looks like shit. And I was like, that sentence works in all of my production experience. So why is that true? That continues to be true. And that's kind of where it was, the discovery kind of birthed itself, was that this feels exactly like real production in the feeling.
Would you say your time commitment is the same or more with generative filmmaking?
I would say it is considerably less.
Less?
Yeah, it takes way less time to make something.
Because it sounds like you put a lot of time into it.
100%. 100%. But not a lot of that time is communicating my intention to a team of people. So I do work with other artists for sure. But one of the strengths of the medium is the very short iterative loops you exist in when you're making something. So while I will work with other artists for sure, it's not a team of 50 people on set
Right.
lining everything up.
Is it 5 people? 3?
The biggest team
you and the boys?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the biggest team I've ever worked on is like 4 or 5 maybe. And the really at 4 or 5 you start feeling, for me anyway, I would start feeling the edges of usefulness. If I tried to distribute this load anymore, something's going to get lost.
There's something quite pleasing about the in my case, the solitude of generative filmmaking that I can do, and my bar is much lower. Like I'll take the second, sometimes the first iteration, and make it work. And going way back to, you said at the beginning, the 15-second, like the 15-second spot that couldn't be done. I'm a fan of the 6-second spot. And then I put this 3-second, sometimes 10, because I have a 3-second logo. But the 6-second, it's perfect. It's a setup and a punchline. And sometimes AI gets it like the calm woman that I keep going back to. So my version of her on a film set, and she's holding a book. It's my book, Commercial Directing Voodoo. $10 for over 25 years of experience filmmaking. And yes, it made the book like really huge, but that was fun to me. And I said, have the light fall over, and it fell over, and then have it fall and hit the camera. So version 2 was the best. And the way that other people didn't react was so funny. That just one guy at the camera reacts, the electrician that drops the light is twisting it, and he tries to lay it down like you never would. So to me, it's subtle yet so over the top, and I think it looks great. It's clearly AI, but other things, like the first time I said make these 2 people dance from an on-set behind-the-scenes photo, people had to ask, "Is that really you 2 dancing?" And I love it. 6 seconds. And I think if it would have gone on any longer, it would give itself away.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of where higher levels of iteration and specificity become more important. When you're trying to tell kind of a bigger story. Like we see with, I don't know if you've seen the Sora model that came out somewhat.
Yeah.
I know this is going to get released way after the fact, but with every new model, kind of people go, well, there's a whole new level of fidelity and it's amazing. And it's true, but and Sora almost makes, you can just tell it to make a 6-second commercial, and it's pretty good.
I had a note to ask you about Sora because, we saw just yesterday, as of this recording, I read that maybe it was Friday, no more Dr. Martin Luther King skateboarding or fighting or sort of insulting riffs on the speech in front of the Lincoln Memorial, like the famous "I Have a Dream." There's so many riffs on "I Have a Dream," "I Don't Have a Dream," him as a WWF wrestler, and Jake Paul was involved and showed up everywhere. He was part of the launch, so I think that as advertising for Sora was genius.
Yeah, I actually think Sora had an amazing product launch in that they made their own advertising tool. That for the first several weeks of people making Sora, it was just ads for Sora. Because you couldn't, a challenge with Sora, especially for the first week or two, was it could make stuff that looked pretty dang good, but you couldn't do anything about it if it wasn't what you wanted.
Right. Well, so that's the other question that I did want to ask, because I think Sora is its own conversation. I'd love to have you back and we could talk about that.
Yeah.
And the rights to it, and like, it's like deep fake on demand. And how inspiring is that to creative people like us when my cousin in Iowa can make it? Like, where's the twist? And I'll go back to your work, the spot for the beer tree.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be an off-the-shelf application of a platform. Is that all AI? Farmer.
Well, so our methodology is generative AI as far as it will go, plus traditional VFX. So all the more complicated things that you would have kind of gone to a mill or an MPC or something like that 10 years ago, that is all generative. But the VFX comes in because the generative, even every model is not perfect. They cause our artifacts that don't stand up, especially at kind of broadcast resolutions. And so when we were starting our company together, one of the things we saw is there is still a gap. There's still a considerable gap between what professional done looks like and what generative can make. And that gap's getting smaller and smaller all the time, but you can't just shrug your shoulders and be like, sorry, that's what you get. And so we have VFX as like an integral part of our process. So
that's good to hear. So the beer growing out of the orange is a combination of AI and traditional VFX to marry it to make it more polished.
So yes. So I'll give you all the behind the scenes on the beer, right? Like the kind of thing that's crazy on that shot is generative, right? Like it kind of growing out of the orange and the kind of organic shapes and stuff. That's orange. But if you've ever
that's
worked
AI.
Sorry, that's right. That's generative. And if you've ever worked on a beer spot, you know the thing that makes it a beer spot as much as anything is the bubbles. The bubbles and the head need to be perfect on a real beer spot. So it's the VFX is in making the beer that was made during the generative process as perfect as it needs to be.
You added bubbles and maybe a little condensation on the edge of the bottle.
Exactly. Other things like you end up getting weird tearing, for lack of a better term, in some of the leaves, especially in the shot where the tree's growing out of the ground, the kind of time lapse shot. You have kind of weird tearing, so we're using VFX to kind of clean that up. When our shots are like 90% right, 90% is not an acceptable percent for a finished thing. And it's tough because it goes back to the thing you were talking about, Sora, where you'll do one and you'll be like, hey, that's pretty good. But hey, that's pretty good is not in fact a professional output. It's just pretty good.
Yeah. And I like the mixing of the tools. Think of, again, your music studio where you've got different samplers, keyboards, you pick up a banjo and a mandolin's over here. I'll take it, and I'm just a hobbyist compared to you. So I'm taking whatever I'm generating, and I had to put the Toyota in the back, so it's faster and better to download, put it into Photoshop, harmonize, which is an AI feature now. That blends it in really well. Then take it back into something, make it a video. Like you're like a mad scientist.
100%. And you just gave a little tidbit of how we are doing. Like we have a not so dissimilar process for doing kind of real car stuff right now. We just did some stuff for Audi and did some stuff for Ferrari, and kind of reintroducing detail like you were just describing is an important part of our process because it's an important part. The fidelity is an important part of car spots.
Yeah, I see people post on LinkedIn a lot, like a spec film I made in my underwear over the weekend, and it's really good. Some are really good. Some are like, wow. The what is his name? Dave, and my friend John Finger, who's makes great stuff and always pushing, the boundaries. But the cars, I go, it's not a real car, and it's different from shot to shot, and it doesn't have the hits of sunlight, that the pings,
Oh yeah. So yeah,
the imperfections, really.
well, sometimes imperfections, but also sometimes the brand required perfection. Yeah, the VFX on car stuff can be all about managing reflections, or light hits or stuff like that, and all the details need to be just right on car stuff. And we have a really robust process for making sure we're continually reintroducing fidelity in every step, so that it looks just the way it's supposed to.
Adam, this has been amazing talking to you. I've learned so much. I hope I could keep up. I've kept up this chat. I do have a couple more questions.
Yeah, no, go. I got the
Number
time.
one, Witten or Wheaton? How do you say your last name?
Witten, yeah.
How did you start Smokin Oakham before the AI revolution or because of it?
I'll give you the whole timeline.
Yeah. And coupled in that, how did you get noticed where people are going, these guys have got the process, they have a system. This Smokin Oakham gang, they know what they're doing. We trust them. Was it one particular client you'd already worked with who goes, you know what? We're here to try this new AI thing.
It's a mix. It's a real mix of things. So I'll start with the timeline. And I'm going to start a long time ago. I'm going to start a really long time ago, because it does kind of end up tying back into AI. And it speaks to the thing you were talking about, enjoying the solitude of making, the generative process, the solitude of generative process. So long ago, I started and I was a practical director, and did some stuff for Geico and some Scion, a couple of things. Young director trying to get kind of his feet under him. And I didn't love the process of being on set. I really loved making stuff. I loved making images, but I had two real challenges when I was making stuff. One was a little bit of immaturity, for sure, is I just heard dollar cash register noises all day on set. I was like really wanting to make sure we made the day and didn't go over budget, and
you were a profit participant, apparently.
No, I really, the thing is, I wish I had been more of a monster, but that wasn't kind of who I was. I was really lucky. Very, very early in my career, I wrote an email to Jeff Price, the director, and do you mind if we have some coffee? He was super gracious. A friend of mine had been in one of his commercials he directed, and so he's like, oh yeah, sure, let's have some coffee. And he said a thing that at the time I was like, that can't be right. He goes, sometimes you have to be a monster in service of the idea. And at 24, 25 or something, I was like, that can't be right. I don't want to be a monster. I don't want to be a monster. And so I didn't like that part of being on set, of kind of fiercely defending an idea against the dollars on set. And then the other part of that is my temperament didn't love interacting with 50 people in a day. My anxiety didn't want me to, like, having to kind of get my ideas to all of those people all day. It just felt bad from a mental health perspective. I didn't like doing it. When I had all the footage and I was in the edit suite, I just fell in love. I was so happy to get into the edit suite. And that ended up being a very natural transformation into being an editor, where I said, this is where I am very, very happy and very in love, is in the edit suite. And I then had a really, really enjoyable career as an editor. I worked for years at Work Editorial in New York. Great group of folks making really beautiful films, and a bunch of just world-class editors. And I started getting into AI, and then at the same time, the kind of economics of boutique editing was shifting a bit. And me and work kind of went our separate ways, wanting some different stuff. And I started getting more and more into AI. And then there was a point where I was like, oh, we've turned a corner. And how I think the next 20 years of being a filmmaker is not going to be how I thought it was. The end of my career is not going to be me being an editor until the end. And I had been around long enough to see tech revolutions before, and said, oh, I better start running or I'm not going to get on the train. And so I started learning as much as I could. And this was a couple of years ago, I started learning as much as I could. And then a very funny thing happened. I'm honest in that I came to it from a place of fear, but I found that I was in love with it. Like I was 24 again. I was able to sit in a room and look out my window when I wasn't sure what to do next and have a quiet moment. And it was filmmaking as an editor. I was being able to be an integrated self of both a director and an editor at the same time. As an editor, one of the questions I'm always asking myself is like, what do I wish was here? What do I wish there wouldn't have been that would make this moment emotionally or visually work as the way I think it should? And you go back and you kind of find the best of the possible solutions. And sometimes it's better, right? Every once in a while, it's even better than the thing you had in your head. But with generative, I'm now going and I'm making the thing. And there's still room for happy accidents. The process I use still has plenty of unexpected twists and turns, but I'm not going back and finding the best of the bad solutions. I'm going back into production in that minute. We're back in production and we're back making it. And so I started working in AI and started getting some jobs and worked for a couple companies as a director in AI. And things started picking up very quickly. And a good friend who executive producer was like, you need to start a company. And I was like, that's a great idea, but I'm kind of a guy and I have lots of good friends in the industry, but I don't necessarily think I have anyone who's ready to jump on the roller coaster of a new company. He goes, I know just the guy. And that was Nick Haynes, who's one of our partners at Smokin Oakham, who has this great history. He came over when the Mill came to the US, and he, helped lead MPC and Absolute and a lot of great VFX companies.
High pedigree.
Yeah, he's amazing. He we met and had like really great meeting of the minds about this stuff, and he was feeling like it was time for the next thing, that the VFX world was not the answer for everything he wanted anymore.
And still has the relationships to dip back in when you need to put the bubbles in the beer, so to speak.
Well, that kind of brings up the third member of our crew. The third partner, Sasha, is also from a lot of those same companies. He worked at a Mill, MPC, Frame Store, those kinds of places, and he's a creative technologist and a VFX supervisor. He was on Wolf of Wall Street, for example. He has this great history, and these guys all said, "Oh, we see what you see. We see the same future," and maybe more importantly, they see that how by keeping human voice and human storytelling at the center is the thing that is going to make us what we are as a company. So,
and that's what separates your work from plug and play Sora.
100%.
It's take what you get, click, post it, versus let's craft a story with a brand message and the level of polish and panache that we expect in the ads.
Then there's a couple different premises for the company, and one of them is we know what beautiful and finished looks like, and we can keep going until it is beautiful and finished.
A little too long to put on a coffee mug, but I love it. Adam, here's the last question. I love that you got together and continued success. Well, bonus question before our last question. So do you have, who spearheads sales, or are people just coming to you?
That's a good question. And we're
new company, new medium.
Sure.
New frontier.
We had some really good conversations with independent reps at the very beginning, and I will save them the embarrassment of their names, but partially because for all of their enthusiasm, we talked to some folks and they were like, we think this is amazing. This is so great. And then they had some stuff come across their desk and they're like, where do we fit you in? When are we supposed to call you? We rep directors and we rep VFX and we rep editorial. When are we supposed to call you?
Yeah, that's the big question mark I have is the traditional model, and I love reps and I love my reps.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the brief coming from an agency that says, we want this to be done this way? I don't think the agencies really care. So how the trick is done,
Mm-hmm.
right? They care, but I don't think they're thinking what's the best approach. I think, well, let me retract that. They're thinking what's the best approach, but they're not specifically asking for what you do.
Right. And we fit a lot of different ways. And we still, if I'm being frank, we still find ourselves in different parts of the process depending on the job. We really work hard to not take kind of straight VFX work.
Yeah.
It's not where we exist. Do we have longtime friends and production partners who we want to help out? 100%. But we actually want to get called as early as possible. We do pricing such that if you call us with a project you want to pitch to a client, we can participate in that.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to because very often we're making stuff. Not everything from the pitch is going to make it in the final spot, but we're making maybe 30% of what we start with in that first cut is going to be in the final spot. We're making final assets already.
Yeah.
We want to be part of the process because so much of this is exploratory. I want to get back to your sales question. We're working with an amazing guy, Ken Brock, and he, for a long time, was the day-to-day client at Audi, and then he was the day-to-day client at Indeed. And he is a self-professed production snob. He, as the day-to-day client for Audi and a luxury brand, he felt like he
has a high bar.
Yeah, he has a high bar, and he required a certain level. And we were brought together on a project that I can't talk too much about, but it was for a car brand. And in a very short time period, we brought a film to the table, and he went, "Oh, this is a whole nother level from what I thought was happening." In pretty short order, we came together and said, "I think this might work for you to go and talk to the people you have relationships with." So that's kind of where our sales team is right now.
That's great.
The thing is, it isn't even really sales. It's much more kind of business development.
Word of mouth, yeah.
Yeah. And we all of us partners have a long experience in the industry. So when we go and we talk to agencies or we talk to brands, we say, we know what it should look like. We don't shrug our shoulders and go, well, you get what you get. That is not how you work.
That's a great story, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I've always said your first gig, not that this is your first, but in this new iteration of you, the first handfuls of gigs are going to be from someone you know or someone you know who knows someone.
Mm-hmm.
To extend the hand of trust. And then these mutations of relationships will happen, and that's how it grows.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, when we click on your name, where should it take us on the podcast? Smokin Oakham?
Yeah, Smokin Oakham.
Okay,
SmokinOakham.co.
And here's the last question. The show's called Respect the Process. You've been a fascinating guest. We end the show with your answer to this. Adam, what does respect the process mean to you? Respect the process means to me that creativity needs to live in a certain kind of tension. A tension between kind of client and creative, a tension between production and
and the world, the reality production has to be in, a tension between a generative model and a director's ideas. And that process is about living and exploring and growing through that tension.
And tension within.
Well, yeah. Yeah, kind of accepting the ambivalence and multifacetedness of your own ideas.
That's a great answer. Adam, thank you so much. Come back anytime. Keep us posted on your successes. And I may be hitting you up for projects.
Please do.
I'd love to collaborate on something and learn from you.
For sure.
Adam, we're gonna talk again. I'm gonna encourage everyone to follow you, and I'll post these spots with the blog. Have a great time. Thanks again.
Thanks so much for your time.
See you, man.
Bye.
Bye.
Commercial Directing Film School's mission is to help filmmakers direct commercials professionally. With online courses and in-person boot camps, we demystify the process to get you to the next level, all taught by your accessible mentor, filmmaker Jordan Brady.
True Gentleman Industries. We make commercials.